I'm Brent Hubbs of VolQuest. Brent Hubbs brought to you by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life. Brent, Robert was really, really excited about this song Leading You In by Travis Tritt, and I think he hit it right on the nail on the head.
It's a football Friday.
Yeah.
Is there a better time to be alive than a football Friday?
Right?
You got a home game in Neyland Stadium Saturday night. We got dark mode.
Ooh.
We got college football playoff implications on the line all over the country. Football's great. It is a great day to be alive. Hope everybody's well.
Tell them.
We're good.
There you go, Hubs.
Got us
man.
pumped up there, Hubs.
Yeah, Will skipped out on you, man. I want to leave you with that. He said he didn't want to deal with you this week, man. I just needed you to know that out front.
I mean, he picked a different sport than football to deal with in the fall.
I know. He's a busy man.
Hey, Hubs. Bert said he's suspended for PEDs. That's why he's not here.
He'll be back Monday from his suspension. Brent Hubbs joining us this morning of VolQuest. And Brent, the Vols had some time in terms of their bye week to get healthy and get ready. How healthy is this team coming into this game with Kentucky this weekend?
You know, I think for this time of the year, they're really healthy. I think the open dates, while Tennessee did not handle the first one very well at all in terms of what they did at Arkansas, when you look at the calendar, I think the open dates have fit pretty well for this team. It's broken up the season to the point that they've not had a real long stretch of physical games to beat them up so much. And then when they have gotten a little beat up, the open dates hit. And that's what's happened here. So, you know, I think Squirrel White's not 100%, but he's going to go and he's going to play. We'll see how effective and how many snaps he can play. But Dante Thornton, who's been on a snap count the last 2 weeks, is better than he's been with his knee. He should be able to play more. I think it was good for John Campbell. I think it was good for Lance Hurd as well. Both those guys battling some knee stuff. But I think the open date hit well there. And for the defensive guys, you know, to heal up some bumps and bruises, I think it was good. I think this is a much healthier Tennessee team coming into this game than Kentucky is, as Kentucky gets ready to play their fourth straight week. You can see it when you look at their injury report and see where they're at. That's a pretty beat-up football team coming to town, but Tennessee is really healthy.
One guy you bring up in the War Room, and a great read if you want to go and subscribe, VolQuest, every single week. He comes out with the War Room, Brent Hubbs. And you had mentioned the tight end Ethan Davis and maybe growth in his role over the past couple of weeks. What can he really bring to the table in terms of some consistency for this offense?
I think it's unique, first of all, he's got to be consistent on the practice field and to borrow a coach's phrase, he's got to stack days. And what he's done the last 2 weeks, which is why his role has increased, is twofold. One, he has done a better job of being locked in on the practice field every day with details and getting himself ready to play. I think the other thing is with the injury to Squirrel White, what do you do at the slot spot? Mm-hmm. Okay, you got Chaz Nimrod who can play some slot, but he's not going to play every snap. So where do you go slot-wise? Well, you could schematically go Ethan Davis if you want to do some different things because he's a former wide receiver in high school, big body guy who's a good athlete that can win if he gets matched up against a linebacker. He can win physically if he gets matched up against a slot nickel. If that's what they do from a scheme standpoint, then obviously he could do some things in the run game. So it is a nice potential wrinkle. It's on Ethan Davis to see how big that wrinkle is. And the last 2 weeks, it's been a little more significant. You know, he's got 4 catches in the last 2 weeks, and he played some significant snaps against Alabama. So that is a new element they could bring in to help manage the slot position if Squirrel White's going to be limited the rest of the year.
Brent Hubbs with us of VolQuest on 3. Join us every Friday at 7:20 Central. Hubbs, with you bringing up Squirrel White and Ethan Davis, the steady weekly question is surrounding you. You know where I'm headed.
Here it is.
Yeah, but Austin led with a little bit something extra on Tuesday. He said that, Mike Matthews has to deal with on the field and off the field stuff. Why is he not seeing the field? Because I can understand the on the field with it being playbook, timing, etc. Is there anything more going on with him?
No, I think on the field, off the field is about stacking days. Again, I think it's one of those things where you got to understand the importance of Tuesday on the practice field. And I think for some guys, when it's come very easily for you at the high school level, I think it's one of those deals where you're having to learn everything counts all the time. Okay. And that's doing extra film work. That's doing whatever. If you need to catch extra passes, out of the jugs machine, if whatever you have to do and you need to do, you got to go do it. And I think for Mike, and this is probably not fair for Mike, because Mike did some good things in spring practice as he was just learning the offense. He made some plays in fall camp, and what happens? Then he becomes the guy everybody talks about, right? And probably the offensive coaches didn't help him a whole lot either, right? He was talked up big in the preseason. Right. Remember a year ago in the preseason, Dante Thornton was a freak. I mean, he was a freak. That was the label that Joey Halsley gave him in preseason camp a year ago. And then he didn't do much. And what was the question every week? Where's Dante Thornton? Why can't Dante Thornton get on the field? What are they doing? What's the story? And now you hear, well, Dante put a lot of pressure on himself. He didn't handle everything each week, the right way, and put himself in the best position to get on the field. Well, I think they've done something similar to Mike Matthews, and they continue to talk about him. They were asked this week about Mike Matthews, and Kelsey Pope at the podium on the press conference. He's really locked in. Yeah, well, I mean, is he locked in every day to get on the field? Because he wasn't locked in well enough 2 weeks ago to play more than 5 snaps. And so I think that they're adding a little pressure to Mike Matthews, which is probably not fair to Mike, and I'm sure Mike's frustrated with not playing more. We'll see what he does down the stretch of the season here. I think a lot of this is on Mike Matthews and how intentional he is about everything he's supposed to do on and off the field.
No doubt about it. Hubs, this Kentucky matchup, though, man, you mentioned everything that's going into it. It's a night game. It's dark mode. I mean, I saw somebody say the best intro ever is watching that T get lit up and that orange ring go around. That's when you know it's serious with Spooky Rocket Top, okay? I'm painting a picture here is what I'm doing, okay, Hubs?
I like it. I like it, okay.
Okay. But Kentucky, man, that's 3 straight losses they've had. That you mentioned in the war room that they have some defensive schemes that may not be there, that we hadn't seen before, that the Vols hadn't seen before, kind of like how Arkansas got to them or others. What's the expectation, this Tennessee offense versus this Kentucky defense?
Well, I never pictured you as Bob Ross painting pictures on a Friday morning. But
well, Hubs, I kind of say to myself, I'm a sports entertainer, not a journalist, so I might just surprise you every once in a while.
Yeah, you do. You always surprise me. No question about it. Painting some happy trees this morning. The thing with let me say this about dark mode. What I like about this deal is everybody in the athletic department and at Tennessee has embraced this deal. Okay, this is their one-off. This is their really unique, and their creative team has had a hell of a week in terms of all the stuff they've produced. They make it a thing. And I think if you're going to do one of these, and I know there's some older tradition people who don't like this, they want orange and white only and all those things. And I get that side of it. But if you're going to do one, then go all in on it. And that's what Tennessee does with dark mode. And that's why dark mode is so much more popular than than the smoky gray stuff, in my opinion, because they make it such a thing. Now, to your football question about Kentucky and their defense, because they are so beat up, I think Tennessee in the back of their mind wonders, does Kentucky have to switch up some things they do defensively? Because J.J. Weaver, the outside linebacker, is not going to play. Because they've got a couple of DBs banged up. Because they're banged up a little bit up front. Do they do something a little bit unorthodox for what they have typically done defensively against Tennessee? Here's the other thing, too. Think about this. Last year, 3 plays of 30-plus yards against Kentucky's defense. 2 of those were touchdowns. The year before, 3 plays of 30-plus yards. 2 of those were touchdowns. In Josh Heupel's first year, 5 snaps of 30 yards or more. 3 of those were touchdowns. Tennessee has big played Kentucky more than any opponent that they played since Josh Heupel's been here. He's had more people running wide open. I don't care if it's Chaz Nimrod, Squirrel White, Velus Jones, Javonte Payton, Jalen Hyatt, whoever. He's had somebody 5, 7, 8 yards behind that defensive secondary multiple times when he's played Kentucky. So what's Kentucky's counter to that? Are they going to continue to just get big played, or do they do something different schematically for Tennessee in their all-season study, or do they have to do something different schematically because of where they are personnel-wise by getting beat up in these last 3 games that they played in which they've lost? That's what Tennessee is. They have to be ready for and make an adjustment to if they get some kind of look that Kentucky hasn't shown much to this point.
Our good friend Brent Hubbs of VolQuest joining us this morning on RK Dub. So speaking of Kentucky and on the offensive side up front, an old teammate by the name of Gerald Meny liked to talk a lot of crap, and then is not actually even playing in this game. What happened with this, and how disappointed is the Tennessee team that they can't put him specifically into place?
Well, it's my understanding that he may have to have some surgery. He may be done for the year, but Kentucky's not announced that. But he's missed. He missed last week. He's going to miss this week. I don't know that he's going to be back, anytime soon. As for the Tennessee perspective, yeah, there's some defensive linemen disappointed. There's some defensive linemen that have had this game circled. There's some offensive guys that have had this game circled. Because of all the guys who've transferred out, and listen, you can do whatever you want to do when you transfer. Okay, that's part of it. But if you think about all the guys who have transferred out and the guys who have transferred in at Tennessee, I mean, look at the ones that have transferred in. Jamon McCoy he's never once said a bad word about Oregon State. Mm-hmm. He's never once said, well, I mean, this place is so different from where I played at, where people didn't care or there wasn't. I mean, Jackson Moy never taken a shot at Stanford, right? Look at it as people has left. I mean, Tyler Barron's never taken a shot at Tennessee in his 3-team tour before he got settled into Miami. Slaughter, Addison Nichols when Tennessee went to Arkansas. Now, Arkansas made them captains and all that kind of stuff. But they did media that week and all off season, and none of them said anything bad about Tennessee. Gerald Meny didn't have anything good to say about Tennessee when he left, and he talked about Tennessee every time he got in front of a microphone. The reporter's like, okay, here's a free story for us today. Let's ask Gerald about Tennessee. We're going to get copy out of it. Yeah. Okay, and that's what they did. And now that he's not playing, there's certainly some people who will be dressed in dark mode uniforms that'll be really disappointed he's not on the field Saturday night.
Well, if I can't get you, I'll go get your kinfolk, too. It's essentially what we're doing. I mean, we still keep receipts out here.
Oh, yeah. I guarantee you. Absolutely. I mean, listen, this team will not lack for effort, focus, and energy just because he's not out there. Yeah. They will be ready to go. And listen, and here's a great shot. Last group off the field every day on the practice field this week, the defensive line.
Man.
Nice.
Because Rodney Garner is making it very clear to everybody, what you've done to this point is not good enough. Let's find another gear. Let's find another level of play. And if I need to keep you out here until we find it, then we'll just stay out here until we find it. And that's what he did on Tuesday. Rodney did media Tuesday, and he took forever to get in the media room. And everybody's like, what's going on? They're like, he's not done yet. They got extra out there. He'll be here whenever he gets done. And, I mean, he absolutely made sure everybody understood where they're going and what they've got to do this month, starting with Saturday night. It'll be a shock to me if that group up front, who's played well all year long, doesn't continue to play at a higher level the way they played the last couple of weeks. They were good against Alabama. They were good against Florida. I expect them to be better this week against Kentucky.
You bring that up, and that's exactly where I was going. A little bit of recruiting real quick, too.
Sure.
But, of course, 2 recruits committed last night. Well, flipped one from Wisconsin you tell us about, and Tyreek King. I mess up Brendan's last name, Inez.
Ains.
Okay. Well, him, and I want to just couple that with the idea, too, of culture and where you play it. Jackson Moore had a really great quote and podium moment this past weekend. He was asked the difference between playing on the West Coast, and if he had kids, he said, they're going to play in the South, man. And I know we brag on the SEC, and people, I'm sure, get tired of hearing that, but hearing him say that and watching the recruit flip this past weekend, Ains and Tyreek King, what is this like for those guys in this era that's being recruited to the SEC, but also just to Tennessee in these moments?
Well, we joke about it. We've joked for several weeks about Cal and how different things are out there and different stuff like that. It's the passion of it's different. Now, there's some passion that comes with it that is a little bit tough for people to handle sometimes, right? Because you got people tweeting and you got people doing some stuff that you're like, come on, man. But I mean, overall, the Vol walk, the atmosphere, the intensity of the fan base, Living in Knoxville, I mean, I think for a lot of people who are not from around the South, and particularly in the state of Tennessee, they have a perception of Knoxville that it's, backwoods, there's nothing there. Then they land and it's like, hey, it's not all cows and barns. I mean, there's a little city vibe here. It's a good place to live. The student athlete experience at Tennessee is a very good experience right now. And Danny White deserves a lot of credit to that. But I'm going to tell you right now, Dave Hart years ago was very committed to improving the student athlete experience on campus. And I think the little things they do for the student athletes and the amenities that they provide for the student athletes is something that resonates when guys visit and they talk to people on campus. They're like, yeah, it's cool here, right? And here's why it's cool here. I think all of those things take place and are a big deal. As for the two kids you're talking about, Tyreek King is a kid from Catholic High School that Tennessee's had bookmarked for a long time. They love this guy. Playmaker. He could play in the slot. He could play. I mean, he can do a lot of different things with the ball in his hands. He's a terrific athlete. He could probably flip over and play defense as well. Wow. But he's an offensive player who's a really gifted athlete. And he's one of those deals. He's camped at Tennessee multiple times, and every time you see him camp, you go, okay, this guy's good. I mean, he can play. He needs to add some weight, all those things, because he's a young guy. He can play. As for Brennan Ames, I mean, this is a guy that fits what William Inge is looking for at linebacker. And that's the one interesting thing about William Inge is he knows exactly what he wants at linebacker. He has a very clear list of traits that he has to have. Wow. It starts with speed. And this kid can flat out run. Okay, he speed-wise, he's a safety playing linebacker, but he plays with more physicality. So he can run, he can play in space. That's very important to William Inge and what he's looking for. The second thing he's looking for is how instinctive is he? Okay, when you watch him on tape, he's instinctive. The other thing too is how much does he love ball? Well, this kid loves ball. I mean, loves ball. Right. Dad was a really good player in college. He's a super athlete. His dad was a great athlete. And the kid loves playing ball. I think they played tonight. I don't think Page played last night. I think Page's defense has been scored on in one game this season. Mm-hmm. They play high-level defensive football, and he's the leader of that group who's playing high-level football. Okay? So that you can have all the measurables, but then there's the ball factor. And William Inge loves the ball factor with this kid, and that's why Tennessee has worked hard to flip him from Wisconsin. And it was a big flip for Tennessee yesterday.
That's solid stuff there, right? Yeah, that's really good stuff. Yeah, Page has been a really good football program over here for the last few years, and like you said, that defense really, really stout. So it's good news for the Tennessee Volunteers. And Brent Hubbs, brought to you by Ascend Federal Credit Union, your financial partner for every stage of life. He joins us every Friday at 7:20, and we really appreciate you. Have a great weekend and enjoy the game.
I will do it. Y'all have a great weekend
and
as
look
well.
At that.
Enjoy some football.
Hubbs, not a single question about Nico Iamaleava.
Oh, wow. Was that a record?
Take that, Hubbs.
Hey, here's the thing. What everybody wants to see is if Josh Heupel's got somebody 5 yards behind the secondary, lay it out there and let him go get it. If he does, in Neyland Stadium, it will be a great day to be alive. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Hubbs.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, y'all. Have a great weekend.
You too. That is Brent Hubbs, always giving us some good stuff. And if you missed that segment, you can always go check it out wherever you find us on your podcast. Coming up next, I know Keisha